What's up, guys? Rick here with your DFS preview for this week's Rocket Mortgage Classic. This is another one of those events that was created in 2019. So we have 3 years worth of data, very similar to last week's 3M Open, and a golf course that should allow a lot of different types of players to contend. We're going to break all that down and much more. So why waste any more time? Let's jump right into it. Here we go. Detroit Golf Club. Donald Ross. It's Donald Ross season, right? We get this week Detroit Golf Club, Wyndham, which is Sedgefield, and then Eastlake Tour Championship. So this is a good stretch of golf for Donald Ross and Detroit Golf Club. This is the type of golf course where the bomb and gouge method is generally going to be great, right? Like, look at Cam Davis, who won this last year. Look at Bryson DeChambeau, who won this in 2020. It's not the only way to get it done, but it is certainly one of, I don't want to say the surefire methods, but surefire methods. There is not a lot of trouble out here. There's only water on one hole. If you miss wildly off the tee, you're generally in an okay spot. The rough, unless it just kind of downpours and rains and gets thick and wet and nasty, like, it's not going to be very penal whatsoever. And the course isn't very long, right? So you can basically take driver wedge almost everywhere. This is where Bryson broke shot link. Do you guys remember that? So 2020, it was like the first time back. Bryson was all beefy. He was hitting it so close to greens on his drive that ShotLink thought those were his approach shots, right? Because he was actually hitting his approach shots from inside 40 yards. So then ShotLink thought that was his around the green shot or his chip or his pitch, and it was all screwed up. So I think they've gone back and fixed all of that, but it kind of gives you an idea of what you're going to expect around Detroit Golf Club. And I believe it is literally the flattest golf course on the PGA Tour, right? Like, when you look at ShotLink or the topography of it, it's like literally the flattest course on the PGA Tour. The regression model. So what you're looking at on my website, RickRunGood.com, is this regression model that I run for every single course on the PGA Tour. And what it tells you are the stats that are most highly correlated to success here. So driving distance ranked 16th. That means there are 15 other courses in which driving distance is more important. Driving accuracy, much lower, 27th. That makes sense. You don't have to be all that accurate around here. And then strokes gained putting was the big one. You got to kind of fill it up, right? And we've seen the way that Bryson did it. I think he just gained a ton of strokes off the tee and a ton of strokes with the putter. Just these kind of flat, easier greens that you're going to have to take advantage of. A lot of this passes the sniff test. Now, it's not the only way to get it done, because at 7,300 yards for a par 72, it's not really long enough to box out some of the shorter hitters. So we're going to look at someone like Kevin Kisner in just a second, who's had a lot of success here. So it's not the only way to get it done, but I think it is a style of golf that's going to allow some different guys to get into the mix. Your Patrick Rogers of the world, your Taylor Pendriths, guys I'll talk about in just a second, but that's kind of the blueprint, but there's like a secondary blueprint to get it done a la Kevin Kisner. Let's jump over to the cheat sheet. 4 golfers over $10,000. Another very small 10K range, another very small 9K range. The 8K getting a little bit bigger, but still not many guys at the top of the board here. Patrick Cantlay leads the way at 10,700 with Tony Finau at 10.6, Will Zalatoris at 10.4, Cam Young at 10,100. Before we even jump into players, what did we discuss kind of last week? You know, Tony Finau was only, I think, $10,500, and he was the most expensive golfer. That's pretty easy to get the top priced golfer in your lineup, right? And kind of the same thing here. Would you be surprised or shocked if Patrick Cantlay was 11,000 or 11,200? I think the answer is no. And it creates a situation where you can roster any single one of these guys. The big four don't have a lot of experience here at the Rocket Mortgage. That's 2 combined starts, a 53rd for Tony Finau 2 years ago, and a 77th for Will Zalatoris last year. That's it. So if you're looking for course history at the top, there's not a lot of it. If you're looking for course fit, there is a lot of it, right? So Let's start with Patrick Cantlay. Do I think this is a great spot for him? Not particularly. What is he going to be able to do? I think he'll be able to kind of lean into his strengths a little bit. His strengths are being solid across the board and finding the ability to get scorching hot with the putter, right? Last 5 starts, he's gone plus 4.3, plus 5, plus 3, plus 4.5, and plus 6.6 with the putter. He's putting out of his mind right now. That could be a path to the top of the board. I'd like to see him drive it a little bit better, but if he's inaccurate, who cares, right? So this is an okay spot for Patrick Cantlay. I don't think it's a particularly great one for him. You go back to the power rankings, you see Tony Finau, who's next on the cheat sheet, is kind of lapping the field in strokes gained over the last 24 rounds. He's gaining 2.5 strokes per round. He's coming off the win last week. His next closest guy on the power rankings here is Will Zalatoris at 1.99. So only one golfer who's gaining more than 2 strokes per round over his last 24, and Finau is at 2.5. This is a pretty good run. Whether you look at 24 or I think we were doing 36 rounds, you know, the guy who has actually gone on to win the event is basically the guy who leading into it has been best in last 24, last 36. Finau was, I think, last week. Xander was that guy at the Travelers and somewhere else. Where else did he just win at? Scottish Open. And then I believe there was one more right before that. JT Poston when he won, right? So it's like, 4 of the last 5, 4 of the last 6 winners have been the guy leading into the week in strokes gained total for the last 24 rounds. So if we look at last 24, which I just had up here, it's Finau again, it's Zalatoris, it's Mark Hubbard again. You've got some Korn Ferry stuff mixed in here as well. Patrick Cantlay, Cam Young. So well deserved for the top price guys to be up here because they are basically the top guys over the last 24 rounds coming into this thing. You know, Zalatoris is kind of interesting, and I think Zalatoris is the X factor. I think everyone's going to be very excited to play Will Zalatoris. I think you could argue his 28th place finish at the Open Championship was a little bit disappointing considering what his other major championship finishes had been, and he coughed up a couple of strokes on like 15 and 16 for 4 days. It was a little bit disappointing. Was the Old Course a really good spot for Zalatoris? Probably not great. Is Detroit Golf Club a good spot for him? Probably not, right? Like, this is a weird situation where Will Zalatoris is so much better than the vast majority of the field. But compare this place to, like, Torrey Pines, where, you know, I think if you're Will Zalatoris, you want to be rewarded for driving it long and straight. You want to be rewarded, or you want to be on a golf course that is asking you to hit a lot of long iron shots. And you want to be on a golf course that maybe putting is not so important. Well, that's not what's going to happen here, right? At Detroit Golf Club. Could Will Zalatoris win this or finish inside the top 15 on pure skill and talent alone? 100% yes. Do I think this is one of the top 15 or 20 spots for him on the PGA Tour? Absolutely no. So you kind of have to weigh that. And what I will really be interested in seeing is what his ownership is going to be leading into the week. So on Wednesday, when we do the live chat, Rick Run Good YouTube channel, that's at 3 p.m. Eastern time, we'll see what the ownership for Zalatoris is at the top. Because I think you could make a case that if he ends up being a nice little pivot play, I'm much more interested. But this is a guy who, you know, routinely loses strokes with the putter and probably getting ourselves into a putting contest. This is a guy that I think separates himself from the rest of the field on tighter courses and long iron course. It's just not that. So as good as he is and as great as he could be this week, I don't think this is particularly a good spot for him. Cam Young, however, and this is why I think Zalatoris could be a little bit of a pivot. We'll see what that ownership looks like. But Cam Young seemingly going to eat up everything, right? He's $10,100. He is coming off a runner-up at the Open Championship. He is the blueprint for this golf course. He is incredibly long off the tee, second in driving distance, but he has what a lot of his long drive peers do not, and that is touch on and around the green. So he's gained strokes putting, multiple of them, in 3 of his last 5. He's a little bit erratic in that category, but that's okay. His approach play is always solid. We know he's a bomber off the tee. This is I said this last year about Cam Davis. If I could build a golf course for Cameron Young, it would look a lot like Detroit Golf Club. And that is going to be really, I mean, his ownership is going to be through the roof, I imagine. He is not priced prohibitively. I think he is showing the upside. I didn't even talk about the other finishes. He has four top three finishes in his last 7 starts. It's pretty insane, right? And now he's going to probably the best spot for him out of any of these places. He's going to be massively owned. So we'll see as the week goes on if we just pivot off of Cam Young and just bet him outright or something like that and move on with our lives. But I imagine he's going to be quite popular in that 10K range. The $9,000 range is really fascinating. You know, you could make a case for most of these guys and kind of against a couple of them. Max Homa, I'm fine with. You know, he's played here twice. He's gone 42nd, 25th. I don't think it's a great spot for him. I don't think it's a bad spot for him. I think that he's better now than he was a year ago. He's better now than he was 3 years ago. All that stuff. He has winning upside. It's all good. I think he's fine. I think it's fair. Cam Davis is 9,700. And I know it's really, really hard for guys to defend their title. And even though it's really hard, we've had, 3 guys do it this year. KH Lee did it. Sam Burns did it. Victor Hovland did it. And now Cam Davis is going back for his title defense, probably playing the best golf that he has all year, right? He's got 3 straight top 16 finishes, including last week at the 3M Open. He's driving it well. His approach play is great. He's actually, I think, putting a lot better than people would guess. He's gained strokes with the putter in 7 of 8. It's not a lot. He's not going to putt the lights out, but he doesn't really have to when you start figuring out the math of everything else. So this is a really good stat profile. What did he putt to last year? Let's see. I bet you gained 4. Only 3. Okay. So he gained 3.1. He was actually, he gained across the board as you sometimes do in victories, and he's gained strokes. He's gained, 5 strokes, putting in his last 6 rounds at the Rocket Mortgage. That's a pretty good sign. And he's putting well right now. So probably not unheard of to think, okay, he gains 3 strokes putting. The rest of his game stays basically as it is and he contends, right? Like there's a very clear path to Cam Davis contending here. We'll see what his ownership's going to be. Adam Scott is kind of bizarre, right? Like what are we, I don't know what to do with Adam Scott. This is a very weird scheduling situation for him. And I wonder if this is because, so the PGA Tour kind of asks you, I don't know if they ask you as much as tell you, that you have to introduce like one new event. I think it's every 4 years, and maybe this is it for Adam Scott. But let's look at his schedule here. 3 of the last 4 events that he's played have been major championships, and then the Memorial. The Byron Nelson was like a 312 strength of field. I don't know what this week's going to be yet. We don't have it yet, but I imagine it's probably less than that. Then he's played the Masters, the Match Play, the Players, the Arnold Palmer, the Genesis, the Phoenix Open. That's the entirety of his PGA Tour schedule this year. It's like literally the top 10 strongest fields of the year. And he's playing this one, which is it's not a bad field, but it's not an outstanding field. So I don't know why he's playing, quite honestly. You start to look at the advanced metrics and you see what I would describe as whack-a-mole, right? Where it's, 1 week it's the drivers, he's struggling with the driver, he fixes that, but then he can't putt. And then he putts well, but he can't drive it well. And then his short game loses him, his around the green play loses him 3, 4, 7, like it did at the Memorial. But then he can turn on the ball striker and the wedges and gain 8, but then he loses the next week. Like it's all over the place. So I don't really see any consistency here in the game of Adam Scott. He's now at an inflated price. This is the most expensive he's been, at least in 2022. I will probably end up taking a pass here. Hasn't played this event, obviously. Like this is it's just a weird situation. I don't really know what's happening here. I'll probably take a pass on Adam Scott. Kevin Kisner's the other one, right? I mentioned him at the top. And Kisner's the other type. This is a par 72 that it's just not long enough to box out these guys. So when you look at his Rocket Mortgage history, you see a guy that has teed it up in all 3 years. He's made the cut in all 3 years. He finished 3rd 2 years ago and T8 last year. This is a really good time of year for Kevin Kisner, right? You look at what he's done here, which is 3 cuts made, 2 top 10s. Next week, he's going to go back to Wyndham whoops, if I can spell Wyndham correctly, as the defending champion, a place that he's got a bunch of top 10s at, and then he's going to try to roll that into the FedEx Cup playoffs, right? I mean, this is a good time of year for him, and he's playing well again, right? He had this little mini slump where he missed 4 cuts in a row. Then he started to find his balance at the Travelers, gained a ton of strokes with the putter, not unusual for Kevin Kisner. And then he kind of started to really figure it out at the Open Championship, where he gained on approach around the green and with the putter. That was a T21 there. So T6, T21 in his last 2 starts, going to a place I get it. I get the path for Kevin Kisner. It makes a lot of sense for me. Let's go into the 8K range. But before we do that, let me pull up let's just look at a couple of items real quick. I'll pull up the trends tool and we'll see what we can find there. So the idea behind the trends tool is to find guys who are playing below and above their baseline being 100 rounds, basically a year. That's what I think is, you can say, okay, this is what a golfer is, a rolling 100-year average or 100-round average. 100-year average would be very, very long. We would definitely know what type of golfer it is over 100 rounds. So let's look at this. I don't see anyone immediately in the $8,000 range, but the way to read this is that Chesson Hadley in his last 24, and you can change this, is a stroke and a half better than his 100-round baseline. So he is playing well over his head. Now, how is he doing it? Honestly, in a pretty good way, right? He's across the board, he is better than his 100-round baseline. He's better off the tee, on approach, around the green, and with the putter. Some of the ones that you worry about would be, as much as I love the guy, Michael Gligic's a little bit concerning, where he's a stroke over his head right now, and 2/3 of that is coming with the putter. That's a little bit worrisome. And then you have guys like, even Kelly Crafter, like Wyndham Clark. Wyndham Clark driving it better than his baseline, putting below his baseline, and Wyndham Clark might be a guy. I mean, he's in the $7,000 range, along with Brendan Steele. That you would argue these are breakout candidates, guys that are gaining a lot from tee to green and losing to their putting baseline. They're not good putters, but get back to your own baseline, and you can find some success here. The one guy in the 8K range, or the first guy in the 8K range that stands out is Sahith Theegala. Now, this is a pretty good profile here, right? Nearly a stroke per round better than his 100-round baseline. The least of that is coming with the putter. When you start to kind of look at this on the plot chart, you can kind of see he's up here in this upper right-hand quadrant, which is kind of a good place to be. It's like the second best place to be. I'd prefer he'd be in the upper left quadrant, but he's in the upper right quadrant. That's fine, just because he is gaining a little bit above his baseline with the putter. I talk about this all the time with Sahith, where he's going to be volatile. That's built in, right? We talk about it literally every single week. Misses the cut at the 3M Open after coming back from the Open Championship. Should we knock him for that? I don't know. Drove it okay. Didn't hit it well on approach and just kind of gave it away all with the putter. He lost 2 strokes putting over the course of 2 rounds, and that was the difference, right? He lost 2 strokes to the field, all of it coming with the putter, or at least, you could frame it that way. So I'd like to see his ownership. I think he's kind of an interesting little bounce back option here at 8,700. As much as, listen, I'm like so stuck on this Mav McNeely. Like I'm stuck on this ride, this Mav McNeely ride, and I want to get off. Right, I need to get off. I played him in the run and done, the RickRunGood one and done last week, which, don't get me started on. I was in first a couple weeks ago. I think I've dropped to 6 now. I'm running out of time. I'm losing sleep over it. I will say the 49th that he finished last week is not super indicative of how he played. On Sunday, he missed a 3.5-foot putt for par on 17, and then he made a 9, which is a quad, on 18. So he played his final 2 holes of the week at 5 over. We can play the woulda, coulda, shoulda game, but let's see where that would have placed him. So he would go from T49 to T24, right? Yeah, 5 strokes. So 5 strokes in 2 rounds, which you can do that for every golfer in the field. I understand that. But when you have 5 strokes on your final, like you play 70 holes pretty good, or at least to earn a top 25, and then you play 2 holes absolutely miserably, I'm a little bit quicker to forgive in that scenario, especially because if you were to look at this and this was a T24 instead of a T49, you'd say, wow, Mav McNeely has 4 straight top 25s. He has played the Rocket Mortgage a couple of times, and he's finished 8th and 21st. You would be excited about that. Now, I'm kind of stuck in this situation where I'm probably going to have to just play him again, but I want to give you kind of a full picture of the way he's been playing, because I think it's been a lot better than even what this is showing on the screen here. Okay. Let's look at Davis Riley's missed cut. Davis Riley was very popular last week, missed the cut. And that was his first start since the Traveler. So it's basically a month off. How did he do it? Well, I'll tell you what, it's not the worst missed cut, right? There are good and there are bad missed cuts. He gained slightly off the tee. He lost a tiny bit on approach, 0.02. He gained around the green and he lost a stroke with the putter. He missed the cut on the number and he gained 0.06 strokes to the field. It's not a bad missed cut. Right. I don't think that Detroit Golf Club necessarily sets up well for Davis Riley, but I don't think it hurts him. So I think there's an interesting buy low opportunity on all, like McNeely, Sahith, and Davis Riley in the upper 8K range. The lower 8K range, it's a little bit of a bigger range. I continue to be a little bit worried about Gary Woodland. He's just not really that player anymore. He's much more volatile. I think he's missed like 5 of his last 9 cuts, but when he plays well, he can pile it up. Has missed both of his cuts at this event. I think asking him to make a lot of putts and make a lot of birdies is probably a big ask. I'm mildly interested in taking a flyer on Webb Simpson. So, if this was a year ago, I think we'd be pretty excited to play Webb, also entering a very good stretch of golf for him. A course that should set up well for him to kind of go out there and not be overpowered by a golf course, be able to hit a lot of wedges, be able to make a lot of putts. And then he gets to go to Wyndham, where literally he named his child after, because he's had so much success at. And we're seeing at least flashes of good golf from Webb, right? He's missed 3 of his last 6 cuts, but the other 3 are a 20th at the PGA, a T27 at the Charles Schwab, and a T13 at the Travelers. And you're seeing glimpses of really good ball striking. So I don't mind if he comes in lower owned to be considering Webb in this scenario. I also want to consider Webb on... Actually, I want to look this up on Jock Market, which is stock market DFS here, because I don't think the sentiment is going to be very high on Webb. And really all you're asking him to do is outperform his sentiment, right? Outperform his expectations. So here's his last 20 starts. And he's been a loser, right? He's been a loser over his last 20, but he's got some popping ability here. This is where you buy, sell, and you can short shares of athletes and golfers here, but you can see, like, I don't think he's gonna be very popular this week. So if his IPO's like, I don't know, $5.50, $6 with the guaranteed payouts for finishing position, like I could see him outperforming that, right? So that's someone I'll keep an eye on in that market. Same with these other guys. When you say buy low, like I literally say buy low because I don't think people are going to be super excited to play McNeely or Davis Riley or Sahith. You could literally buy low on them in the Jock market. So it's kind of interesting when sentiment doesn't always match up with reality. Before we go to the 7s, let me just pull up, I just want to look at this tournament, right? Like 3 years is just enough data to be dangerous, right? So we've got everyone in this field at the Rocket Mortgage. It's only 3 years for everybody who's played it at the most. So Nate Lashley's number 1. He's played here twice. He won it. He's played here 3 times. He won it and then missed the cut. So it's 8 rounds, but it's the win in 2019, back-to-back missed cuts. That's not particularly great. Cam Tringale is the best in terms of strokes gained. Actually, he's tied with Kisner. Both of them are 1.67 strokes gained over 12 rounds. Tringale's gone T5, T30, T14, and Kisner's gone T46, 3rd, T8. Wyndham Clark. Okay, so now this is becoming pretty interesting. So Wyndham Clark is in the 7K range that we're in. He's played here once. It was in 2019. He finished T17. He gained 4.5 strokes with the putter. Now we have to mine into Wyndham Clark here because he was also showing up on the trends tool as someone who might be a candidate to break out. Right? Look at the gains off the tee, +3, +4, +3.5, +2.5 over his last 4 starts. You know what he does well, right? Which is drive the ball very far and drive it very inaccurately. We know that that's okay here. What else? He's a very good putter, 30th in strokes gained putting. I'll tell you what, I mean, there seems to be a lot of signals pointing towards Wyndham Clark right now. Back to course history. Hagee and Kirk are next. 1.58 over 8 rounds. McNeely's the same, 1.58 over 8 rounds. I mean, just kind of look at some of the guys here, right? I mean, Hagee, like, he's a bomber. Wyndham Clark, he's a bomber. They're not all bombers, obviously, but certainly you're going to get some guys that fit the mold. Who's the best putter here? Brian Stewart, 1.52 over 10 rounds. Gained 10.5 strokes putting in 2019. So just kind of looking through. You can flip through these, but I just want to get an idea as we go into that 7K range. So you saw Chris Kirk there with back-to-back top 25s. Scott Stallings he's got to be a guy that you have to point out. Now, I don't think he is particularly safe, like by any stretch of the imagination, right? But what he offers you is a lot of upside. So his last 6 starts are 3 missed cuts and 3 top 8 finishes. You might be looking for that, right? You might be looking for the volatility of a guy who can finish T4 at the John Deere, T8 at the Travelers, miss the cut at the US Open, miss the cut at the Memorial, T4 at the Charles Schwab, miss the cut at the PGA Championship. The good news is that the 3 missed cuts are like polar opposites of what you're going to get this week, right? I mean, 2 major championships and the Memorial, difficult setups. And his 3 top 10s are John Deere, Travelers, and Charles Schwab, right? Doesn't this feel more like an event that Scott Stallings can contend and compete at? And he can, because you look at what he's done here. 3 straight years he's played it, made the cut in all 3, has gotten progressively better in each one. His most recent finish was T25. That was last year. So I think that's a very reasonable flyer to go with Scott Stallings. Someone on Twitter, and I apologize because I cannot remember who asked me, said, hey, is this the start we needed from Cam Champ? So he was referring to the 3M Open. Cam Champ is a guy who foreshadows his runs, even if it's just a little bit, right? And it's usually just like 1 start and then boom, he clicks. If you believe that, which I tend to believe, then I would say yes, anonymous Twitter follower who I cannot remember your name, that he did kind of foreshadow it, right? So he's driving it okay. Not as good as we would like. What can you do here? Drive it without regard for accuracy. His approach play, 2.16 on approach last week is his best since the Byron Nelson. And now he's gained strokes on approach in 3 of 4. Around the green, he is capable of throwing away 3 or 4 strokes, but he's been basically a 0 in 4 of his last 5, and then he putted well last week. 3.39, which is his best putting performance since Mexico by a mile. Let's look at what he's done here. Rocket Mortgage. T46, T12, missed cut. He's putted okay. Small negative over 3 years. I'll tell you what, if you want to take the flyer, the foreshadow flyer on Cam Champ, this is kind of it. Let me look up what his outright number is. 75-1. That'll get a click from me. Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't think you want to play Cam Champ in anything of like safety, right? If you're looking for safety, avert your eyes. But we've seen this before. Before the win at last year's 3M Open, he had that just like one good week at the John Deere, and you're like, okay, this is something where he kind of breaks out of this horrible putting stretch and wins. We've seen him do that before, and this could be a better spot for him than TPC Twin Cities is, right? All right, you've got my attention. I will probably just bet him. The 7K range is filled with guys. You could go back to Tom Kim, who quietly finishes 26th last week. He has now 2 starts left to earn as many points as he can because he's got that special temporary membership status. Brendan Steele was in the breakout candidates conversation. The guy that I'm really, really excited about, I don't know if he's going to be the best, but I'm really, really excited about Taylor Pendrith. What are we talking about here? Bomb it. Don't worry about where it goes. Go find it, pick it up, and move on. Now, he has not played a lot this year, but he's 14th in driving distance, 159th in accuracy. Yep. Look at what he's done. So remember this. He was T13 at the Players' Championship. The Players' Championship. Think of that field. Broke his rib that week. Nuts, right? I don't even know how you do that. Sidelined for 4 months. Just made his return. Didn't miss a beat. T13 at the Barbasol, T11 at the Barracuda, going to probably the best course on the PGA Tour for him. He's going to be volatile. I don't know what to expect. It's a very small sample size, but on paper, this is a really, really, really good spot for him. And he was playing well, right? I mean, obviously these results are going to go back basically to January, but he's gained strokes on the field in 5 straight. He has only lost strokes to the field once this year. It was at Riviera, where he lost 3.5 strokes and missed the cut. Like, he's playing good golf. He's back for, like, I don't know, obviously well rested, right? I like that. I'm very excited to play him. Who else? Just a massive 7K range, right? The bottom of the 7. Oh, Callum Tarrant. Yeah, let's go here. So start to look at the cheat sheet here, and look at I'll just filter this by just the 7K guys. Guys that gain in distance. This is driving distance, right? Per round. Chris Gotterup, by far number 1 in the 7K range. Michael Thorbjornsen, who we have another small sample size on. You could roll him out if you want a flyer. Wyndham Clark, Trey Molinax, Taylor Pendrith, Luke List, Callum Tarrant. Callum Tarrant is actually gaining more yardage. Now, this could be flawed, but like last 50 rounds, gaining more yards per round than Cam Champ is. Now, Champ tends to club down a lot, right? He's a bomber, but he clubs down a lot more than a lot of these other guys. But Tarrant is long off the tee. What else do you notice? Well, you also notice that he's a very good putter. When you look at this, you generally see guys that drive it well and have 0 touch around the green, 0 touch with the putter. Tarrant is not that guy, right? So he's gaining like a half a stroke per round putting over his last 50. So when you start to mine into him, you're going to find a guy who is seemingly firing on all cylinders. He's gained strokes off the tee in 3 straight. His putter, great. Approach play, fine. And look at the results. T7 last week, T22 at Barracuda. He missed the cut he lost a half a stroke at the Genesis. Missed the cut there. The Scottish Open, that is. T6 at the John Deere. So you're talking about 3 top 25s in his last 4 starts. Clearly feeling confident, clearly feeling good. He's got this great flow. If you're watching on YouTube, look at that headshot. Great flow. And this is a course that should play really well for him, right? So I'm excited about Callum Tarrant in the bottom of this 7K range. I mentioned Michael Thorbjornsen. We only have like 4 starts on him. The Travelers, where he finished 4th and bombed it past everybody, and can get hot with he gained like 9 strokes putting, I think, at the Travelers. So that, he's not going to do that again. But if you're looking for a super, super dart throw on an unknown entity, a guy that we don't really know much about, I don't mind Michael Thorbjornsen. What else do we have? Bottom of this. Patrick Rogers again. This is the 1 week a year where if you drive it well and putt well, I'm interested in you. And he's got 2 top 40s here in those last 2 years. I'm not super excited about it, but like, hey, it's the stat profile. I get it. Oh, Gligic had another good week last week, right? Gligs coming through. Love that. T16 last week. I had a top 20 on him. I think I had a top 30 on him as well. But Gligs, yeah, baby. I think he might have been in the optimal. Was he in the optimal lineup? He was not. Here's the optimal. Follow me on Twitter, at RickRunGood. I tweet these out every week. Finau, Piercy, Grillo, Sungjae, Han, Tom Hoagie, 49,100, 662 points. But Gligic might have been close. I don't remember, but he might have been close. I don't know if this is a great spot for him. I think it's okay for him, but I probably prefer Tarrant and those other guys. Okay, 6K range. Let's see what we can find here. Okay, top of the 6s. Garnett's playing well again, right? He's this highly volatile guy, 16th at the Barracuda, 31st at the 3M. Cheston Hadley, remember when we go back to the trends, he's literally the hottest player over the last 24 rounds, literally, compared to their own baseline, right? So he's gaining 1.58 strokes to himself over the last 24 rounds. And he's doing it in some pretty good ways. 1.09 of that is coming from tee to green. So the putter is still over expectation, but everything, he's just playing really, really well, and it's turning into results. So we've got 10th at the 3M, 31st at the Barracuda, made the cut at the Barbasol, 10th at the John Deere, 5th at the Travelers. That 5-event stretch is awesome. Don't mind that one single bit. I ended up betting Hayden Buckley last week. He played fine. T26. I might go back to him again this week. What else do we have here? If we flip this around and just look at the last 24 rounds, which, by the way, like when we're looking at these guys, I kind of want a pretty small sample size. I could even go 16 or 12 rounds. Cheston Hadley, by far the best player in the 6K range. He's a half a stroke better over the last 24 than anybody else in the 6K range. Scott Gucheski is number 2. So he's gone 31st at the 3M, 5th at the Barracuda. A bunch of miscuts. Although I think they were like close miscuts, you know what I mean? Where you like lose a stroke to the field. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. Kelly Craft, Brian Gay's got like senior tour data in there. I wouldn't look at that. Brandon Matthews is on there. Again, that's like Corn Ferry stuff. I wouldn't look too far into that. I'm not super excited about any of these guys. Let's find the bombers in the 6K range. Bramlett. No. Hagee's not bad, right? Hagee he's gone 2 miscuts, 27th at the Barbasol, but he's got a 6th place finish and a 39th here, and he's got kind of, not really the blueprint, but bombs it far. Bo Hostler's sneaky long, isn't he? This is kind of interesting. All right, I'll give Bo a shout out, friend of the pod. This is kind of a sneaky good little profile, right? He is the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth longest guy over the last 24 rounds in the 6K range. Gains everywhere but all on approach. Gains off the tee, gains around the green, gains with the putter. Finished 25th here last year. Maybe he gets hot, rolls the rock at 68, $100. I could get behind that. Let's see if we could run a model. Custom model, RickRunGood.com. We are in the dog days of summer. Should we do 16 rounds? Like something real freaky? Just do last 16 rounds? And all right, what do we know here? So let's break this up into each category. So off the tee, let's say like 25 on distance, right? 25 of our 100 weights on distance. On approach, I don't even know if it's that critical. Obviously, approach is always important. But remember, these guys, it's going to basically be a wedge fest. So maybe we should do the buckets. I can't believe how much I've been doing the buckets recently. But it's going to kind of be a wedge fest, or I don't necessarily want to do that because not everyone's going to be playing from these wedge ranges. I'll do strokes gained approach, and I'll have to do weighted because, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this. I don't know who a good example would be this week. Hold on, let me find somebody. Matt Wallace is in the field. So you have to remember, I now have the European Tour strokes gained breakdown. So for example, at the Porsche European Open, Matt Wallace gained 8 strokes on approach. If you want to give the same amount of credit to him gaining 8 strokes on approach at the Porsche European Open as someone who might have gained 8 at the US Open, then just use strokes gained approach. But you might want to consider using weighted strokes gained approach because of the discrepancy in field strengths across these places. So while I'm not going to put a lot on strokes gained approach, I'm going to put it on weighted strokes gained approach. I'm going to put 10 on. By the way, that European Tour data goes back to 2019. I'll add more later, but a lot of data in there. Okay, so around the green, nothing. Putting, I think, is going to be pretty important. And again, we probably need to consider weighted strokes gained putting here. So let's go 25 on strokes gained putting. That leaves us with 40. Where else could we put this? I think you're going to have to make a lot of birdies, right? We could do DraftKings points gained. Let's do 20 on putting. It leaves us with 20 more. I will do just a little sprinkle on 50 to 125 and 125 to 150. And we'll see what this pumps out. Last 16 rounds, sort by value. My number one golfer is, it's Patrick Cantlay, which I'm fine with. I don't think on paper it's super great for him. But number 2 is Adam Scott. How is that possible? Because I didn't weigh around the green, and he's longer than you think he is. I don't love that. Really don't love that. Number 3 is Cam Young. Yep, that makes total sense. 4 is Tony Finau. 5 is Tringali. Tringali's been good here. Zalatoris is 6. Webb Simpson is 7. Siwoo Kim is 8. Didn't really talk about him. He's been okay. Cam Davis is 9. Giddy up. Mav McNeely is 10. Look at 9, 10, and 11. Davis, McNeely, and Riley. All the scrubs that I bet every single week, right? So probably more money to be lost in those areas. Okay, look at these guys in the 7K range. Pendrith and Taryn are 17 and 18 for me. It's higher than Max Homa based on this model. So very, very interesting stuff there. I love that. All right. More to come this week, obviously. Follow me on Twitter at RickRunGood. Leave a comment below. Subscribe. Do all that fun stuff. Go to RickRunGood.com. Look at all the models and things for yourself. Highly encourage you to do so. Okay. That'll do it. Best of luck this week. I'll talk to you guys soon.